Hey everybody, I am back again on the streets of Belfast. It's very quiet and cold today, but I've got my sign. It's asking animal lovers 3 simple questions, and basically it's another edition of people telling me how much they love animals and how much they care for them, and then turning around a few moments later and trying to justify harming animals. So anyway, let's get started. Let's see what the public have to say. Don't forget to leave some comments in the comment section below, and let's see how it goes. Cheers. So, first question, very easy. Do you love animals, and if so, why?
Well, I mean, my dog always makes me feel better when I'm sad. And they're super cute.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I agree with you. I think they're quite innocent as well, like children. Yeah. So, second question is, what do you think of animal abuse or people who abuse animals?
Not good. I mean, I think it's an awful crime. Does it get prosecuted a lot?
Well, it depends what you do, but the third question will lead into that. I think the laws are not strict enough by any means, so most people who abuse a dog or kick a dog, or that guy a couple of years ago that put a puppy in a microwave and they hit it with a hammer, I think he may have got like a 6-week prison sentence or suspended sentence. I don't even think he went to jail. So the crimes for animal abuse are absolutely shit in this country and most countries. The third question is trickier. Still a simple question. It's trickier to answer.
Okay.
No judgment with it whatsoever. None.
Have I ever kicked a dog?
No. But do you fund any industries that abuse animals? And by that I mean meat, dairy, eggs, circuses, zoos, animal testing, all that sort of stuff.
Well, my mum's quite spiritual, so she's a vegan.
So am I.
So why is she a vegan?
No, I said so am I.
Oh, sorry. Oh, okay.
That's why I'm here.
No, not a vegan. She's a vegetarian.
Okay.
But we do eat meat. Well, I mean, my mum doesn't, obviously, but it's more of a cultural thing because my dad's an immigrant, and so yes, I do eat meat, which does...
I'm not trying to catch you out, by the way.
No.
It's a tricky question.
It is a tricky question.
And I'm trying to make people see or understand that if kicking a dog is wrong, then why is it okay to hang a cow upside down and shoot them in the head and cut their throat?
Yeah.
Or throw a pig into a gas chamber, or keep chickens in cages and let them live 48 days and then send them off to a slaughterhouse, when you can just eat or wear something else instead?
Yeah.
What do you think of that? You said it was cultural. What does that mean?
Cultural?
Yeah.
Well, a lot of our dishes, a lot of our culture revolves around food because I don't know why it revolves around food, but I think that's something that brings people together quite often. Okay. Meals. In theory, I would love to be vegan, but it's very difficult, especially since I'm already so detached from my culture because I live here. But we own, we don't buy our eggs, we have a chicken, and if my mum's cooking, it won't be meat, but there is, of course, I still do eat.
What is your culture, if you don't mind me asking?
We're Basque. Have you heard of? Yes. Yeah, we're Basque. So it's already quite a dying culture.
So somewhere between France and Spain, yeah.
We come from the Spanish side of that border.
Is that in the Barcelona side, or is that on the other side?
Sorry?
Is that near Barcelona? Are they Basque?
Oh yeah, no, they're not Basque.
No, they're Catalan, aren't they?
Yeah.
Okay.
But it is a little bit more east.
Yeah. Most countries will talk about culture. The reasons people eat animals, 4 main reasons: habit, tradition, culture, well 5, convenience, and taste.
Yeah.
Personally, I don't think any of them justify harming animals if it's not necessary, if you can just eat a plant-based version instead, or just eat plants.
Yeah.
Animals suffer terribly. Even if you eat a small amount or a large amount, that one animal has suffered horrendously. They've had their life taken away from them.
Yeah.
So if you're making a casserole, or I don't know what the dish, and I know Spain and the Basque region is very based on eating animals and animal products, and so's here. I mean, you look around you see cows and sheep all around you. That's what people do. I'm just trying to appeal to people and say, if you truly love animals, is the more compassionate and the more empathetic choice is to if you think it's wrong to hurt an animal or take their life from them when you don't need to, the more empathetic and compassionate choice is to not pay other people to do something that you would probably never do yourself.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
No, yeah, it does make sense. And I think that, you know, I mean, I would love to go vegan, but that would be, you know, another thing that sort of detaches me from my family. And I mean, especially with the Basque country, because it's well, part of it is on the coast. A lot of the meat that we would eat is fish. Another one being like cattle and stuff like that. But no, I hear what you're saying. And is it expensive to be vegan?
No, honestly, no. You can eat dear vegan products and cheap meat vegan products, the same as you can with omnivorous diet. You can eat a steak in a restaurant, which is the dearest thing possibly in a restaurant, or you can eat a burger at McDonald's for a quid.
Yeah.
So it's exactly the same for being vegan. There's cheap versions, there's dear alternative versions, but you also don't even need to eat the alternatives. So you can just use, like if you're making a curry or something, you can just use sweet potatoes or lentils and bulk it out with literally just plants. Loads of myth around the diet as well about calcium and protein and all that stuff. So pile of crap that's fed to you by the industries. I mean, they feed you that you need to drink cow's milk for calcium. If I said to anybody in the street, why do you drink cow's milk? Everybody says calcium, but cows are not fonts of calcium. They don't produce it within their body. They have it in their milk because they eat grass, and calcium is a mineral that comes from the ground. So you can just eat green, like coloured greens. No, don't eat grass. I don't even know if we can eat grass or not, but coloured greens, broccoli, cabbage, spinach, kale, all that stuff's full of calcium. The protein myth is, I think that's over now, because the hospitals aren't full of vegans that are protein deficient. There's no wards for for vegans that are, the hospitals in fact are full of people with diseases of excess and heart disease and diabetes and cancers and all sorts of stuff. If you eat enough food, you'll get enough protein. It's just learning. I think if you speak to most vegans, I think you have it in your head that it's hard. So two things on that. If you speak to most vegans, they'll all 2 or 3 weeks before they went vegan, they're thinking about it and what am I going to eat, and I don't know what to eat. See, 2 weeks after, if you speak to every vegan I know, they will all tell you it's the best thing they've ever done. And number two, I was going to say something else and I can't remember what it was. Oh yeah, when you're thinking that it's hard, that's a human-centric or an anthropocentric point of view. You're looking at it from your perspective, but if you look at it from the victim's point of view, the animals that suffer terribly, then it becomes an easier choice to walk into a supermarket and think, well, these sausages here that are made from pigs, or these sausages that Linda McCartney makes, a pack of 6 for £2. Cruelty on one side, no cruelty on the other. I mean, that becomes an easy choice. Like, if I told you how we dispose of pigs in slaughterhouses in this country, do you know what we do to them?
Is it just like cows or chickens when you hang them upside down?
What would you think if I told you we throw them in the gas chambers?
Really? What gas do they?
It's carbon dioxide.
Oh.
So it's like suffocation. So there's Caro Foods at Cookstown, Cranswick Country Foods in Ballymena. Between them, they gas about 7,000 pigs every single day. So they put them into it's like a small Ferris wheel, except it's not nice wee boxes for people to sit in. It's cages, metal cages. They put 3 or 4 pigs in at a time, and they drop them down into the gas chamber. And it's not like going to the dentist and falling nicely to sleep. They suffocate.
Yeah.
It's horrendous. I've been to the slaughterhouses and watched it. I've listened to them. I swear to God, if you could hear those animals screaming, it's like, imagine somebody suffocating you, you would fight with all your might. I've seen them pull their limbs off and everything trying to get out. It takes about a minute and a half. When they come out the bottom, they're stunned, they're not completely dead, because their heart has to beat and they have to bleed out. It's enough to get them unconscious so that they can hang them upside down with one leg with a shackle, and then somebody cuts their throat. By this point, most of them are conscious again, so they're choking on their own blood, hanging upside down. It's horrendous, like genuinely horrendous. And if people were doing it to dogs, everybody on this street would be up in arms about it. But because it's pigs, I mean, you don't even know that. You've never heard that before. Genuinely, the last day I was there, I stood and cried for 20 minutes. It's absolutely diabolical. So I don't want to pay for that. And if I can eat the vegan sausage instead, it's a it sounds hard, but if you think about it from their perspective, then it becomes a lot easier.
Yeah.
What do you think of that?
Well, I mean, it does seem like an easy choice, but I'm not planning to stay in this country. I'm planning to go back to my dad's home country. And when my mum comes over with us, she speaks Spanish, and she'll tell the waiter. I remember this one time she told the waiter she's vegetarian. They brought her out a tuna salad and said just pick the tuna out. I think in this country there are definitely a lot of options.
Can I just interrupt you there, because I go to Spain quite a lot and I speak a bit of Spanish. So 10 years ago when you went to Spain, they didn't even know, when you say soy vegano, they don't even know what that means. So I used to have to say no mantequillo, no queso, no pescado, no marisco, all that stuff. And they still come out with tuna. I asked for what do you call the subs there, bocadillo. I've asked for that in Spain, for bocadillo vegetal, is that right? Am I saying that correctly? And the guy comes out and there was fish in it, and I was like, there's fish in this pescado, and he was no, vegetal, atún, and I was like, so in his head he had this perception that tuna fish was a vegetable. It wasn't an animal. I couldn't believe it. But now I've been recently, big changes. When you go into the supermarkets like Netto, and I'm trying to think of the great big one over there. They have loads of, what is it?
Eroski.
Yeah, they have loads of vegan stuff. There's more vegan stuff in the Spanish supermarkets than there is in the supermarkets here, and there's loads here. So it's big changes now.
Do you go to?
So I used to go to the Canary Islands and surf a lot. Surf for a long time all around the Canary Islands, but more recently up to Catalonia. So above Barcelona. I'm trying to think above, below Barcelona. Do you know have you heard of Sitges?
Where?
Sitges, or
no.
So Castelldefels and Viladecans. They're wee towns between Barcelona and Salou where most holidaymakers would go. So when you go to these wee towns, they're quite out of the way.
Yeah.
And they're full of vegan fish, believe it or not.
Yeah.
And even if there's not a vegan option in a restaurant, you can still get patatas bravas or something like that. So there's always something to eat. Vegan milks in all supermarkets, vegan cheeses. So Spain's not as backward. Backward's a terrible word. That's an awful word. I didn't say that.
Not as progressive.
As far as veganism would be concerned, I would have thought it wouldn't be as progressive. I would argue it's possibly more so than here.
Oh, I suppose if I'm not looking out for vegan options, I probably won't notice them.
And that's exactly it. So even if you go into the Tesco's here now, there's like 5 or 6 different sections of vegan food. You maybe haven't even noticed. You've probably seen the vegan milks and not much else. But
I'm partially sighted, so I don't see much.
Okay. But so the options are everywhere now. There's loads of vegans in all countries now. I think Spain's one of them. I think Spain's going vegan more quickly than the UK from the last stats I read. So quite progressive in that way. Obviously, there's another side to Spain where there's bullfighting and stuff going on. So those guys are going to be a really hard sell.
I think that might be why I haven't seen a lot of vegan food, because that's the town that my family's from.
Yeah, I've been to that part of Spain too. In fact, I stayed in a hotel once and they had the bull in a lorry and darkness, ready for the bullfight.
No, the bullfight is
keeping it.
Really, it's horrific. As much as I love my culture, it's not like a very humane's not the right word because it derives from human, but it's not.
Is that true? I know humane means benevolence. It means to care for. It probably does come from the word human. I've never thought of that before.
I'm actually not sure on the linguistics of that. It probably dates back to Latin or something.
Yeah.
But excuse me. No, I don't agree with the bullfighting at all. I've never been to my family would like do my family. My dad sometimes goes.
And that's again the tradition or culture, whatever way you want to say it. I just don't think culture is a justification for harming animals when you don't need to, and it's getting your head around okay, well, I've always been taught this. And believe me, if you talk to people here, I have farmers in the family, or my dad's a farmer, or Joe up the road, It's just a cultural thing here too.
Yeah.
But those things I mentioned to you, habit, tradition, convenience, taste and culture, I don't think any of those, it's 2022 now. So there's no justification for harming an animal when in my opinion. Somebody would tell you different. I don't think there is when you don't need to. And you said the word humane there. Bullfighting is obviously inhumane, it's absolutely atrocious. But we're taught this humane slaughter thing here. Well, the word humane means benevolence, to care for, to be kind to someone. What does the word slaughter mean? It means to kill somebody in a violent fashion, so that's an oxymoron. Those two words do not belong together. The only reason they're together is to make the consumer feel slightly better about mistreating animals.
Yeah.
Doing things to animals that you would never do. So you think, oh well, the cage-free or RSPCA approved or Red Tractor approved. I've been inside Red Tractor approved farms, and the conditions on them, I'm not saying all farmers are bad to their animals, but the conditions on a lot of farms are absolutely horrendous. The animals live a short, shitty life, and then they get loaded onto a truck and they get taken to somewhere where they get their throats cut.
In the bulls, they run through the streets first, but do you think that, I think it's quite difficult to, if they were to pass a law in Pamplona that said, we're just cutting it out immediately, no bull running, no bull fights.
Be a riot.
Yeah, so I think that maybe if they don't stab the bulls, as far as I'm aware, at the beginning. They let out cows. The bulls have grown up. Again, I hear what you're saying about, you can say that it's, they've lived a good life, but then you go ahead and kill them. The bulls grow up in the mountains, then they bring them to the streets. They let cows go out in front of them, and then they chase after the cows, but they put the people in between that. I think that if they didn't, then when they get to the ring, to the bull ring, they stab them, which is obviously, horrendous. I think that if they cut out that bit,
Which part?
The
run?
Not the run, because they don't harm the animals then. Obviously it would be quite traumatic to be taken from, the mountains.
Of course, yeah, that's the thing. It's traumatic for them, and they're frightened and scared, and
yeah, they have brains.
And their families too.
Yeah.
And friends. Cows, believe it or not, if they're in a herd, will have some cows they like and other cows that they don't. They will stick around the cows that they like best. So you just come and lift an animal out of having a nice life. In fact, I even think it's even worse, because see animals that are living in factory farms, it's short life in misery, and it's almost like we're putting them out of their misery. We absolutely should not be doing it, and it's terrible to keep somebody in a shitty life and then kill them at the end of it. It's arguably worse if somebody's having a nice life. If you're enjoying your life and all of a sudden somebody turns up with a gun and marches you off somewhere where you're going to be killed, that's betrayal. If you put that in human terms, it's absolutely terrible. So I think there's no good way of doing any of it.
Yeah.
And even that bullfighting and stuff, most people here are against fox hunting and bullfighting and kicking dogs and whatever. If you went to a slaughterhouse and actually watched what happens and listened to the animals and seen how terrified they are, I don't think you'd be cool with it at all, any of it. It's just this thing where you're taught when you're young not to think about them at all.
Yeah.
And then
I think that would be probably, if everyone had to kill the animals that they ate, I think that the majority of people wouldn't eat meat.
Maybe in times of necessity it would have been different, but now when you we said now tonight you have to kill your own animals and all the rest, how many people would shoot a cow in the head? How many people would cut a pig's throat? I would argue not that many. You might get a few psychopaths that would be happy enough to do it, and those people are, to me, there's a lot of people in society that are lost and will do anything. I'm not here to talk to those people. I'm here to talk to good-hearted people who realise in their heart that it's wrong to harm an animal when you don't need to. And those are the people I want to speak to. The psychopaths, those people who are chasing bulls down the street and bullfighting and all that stuff, and work. Well, you know, psychopath's a strong word, but it's hard for me to understand how somebody gets to that point.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah. And, you know, especially because, you know, where my family's from, it's, you know, bullfighting is, you know, something they do every year for 8 days. And I mean, I personally don't go and watch them. I know that my dad has ran with the bulls but refused to, you know, go into the ring.
Yeah.
It was obviously, you know, from your point of view, that's still quite wrong. But
can I just say, I don't think it's any more wrong. I don't think bullfighting is any more wrong than eating animals.
yeah,
It's just the way you're taught to think about it. That those things are wrong, but this thing's okay. But I'm kind of going, well, hang on a wee second, we don't have to do this either.
No.
They're both equally wrong.
yeah,
You're harming an animal and you're taking their life away from them
yeah,
for a completely unnecessary reason. So I don't judge those people any more harshly. If somebody's unaware, if you're completely unaware about our child that doesn't know about what happens to animals and stuff, and you've been brought up with this fairy tale that there's a farmer with a few wee animals running around his field and at some point they get turned into a meat product and you never really asked why, well, I'm not going to judge that person at all because they don't know. But once you kind of know, once you have a certain level of information, then I guess I would judge in a certain way, because it's very hard for me to articulate. I see it as such an injustice to harm animals, again, for an unnecessary reason. I see it like harming a child. They're totally innocent. They can't. The ones we prey on, cows and chickens and sheep, cannot defend themselves in any way. They're very gentle animals, and we just take advantage of them for our own means when we don't need to. So I see the whole thing as completely and utterly wrong. So that's why I'm that's why I'm out here trying to talk to people.
Would you eat eggs if you raised a chicken yourself?
No. It's not as bad as factory farming, for sure. I'm not going to tell you that it is, but I don't want to. For me, I don't want to normalise eating animal products. It's chickens that. A chicken's egg is a period, basically. It's a female's period. They're supposed to have about 12 or 14 a year, I believe, with chickens, something similar to a human female. But the way they're bred nowadays, like most chickens, especially on the farms, are laying somewhere around 320 eggs a year, so it takes a really heavy toll on them.
Yeah.
And also, that egg, it's probably a different perspective to the way you think about it. I don't see it as mine. When bees produce honey, it's for themselves. Chicken's eggs, not for me. So it's eating an egg, even if it is from a backyard hen, for me is wrong, because it's normalising something, and it's allowing other people to think that it's normal to just eat eggs that come from hens that are treated absolutely abysmally. So I'm not saying to you that those hens in backyards are necessarily treated badly, but it just normalises the whole thing, if that makes sense. It's a lower level for sure, but I still see it as wrong.
Do you think that, I mean, obviously, you know, I'm assuming from your point of view, if you could turn the whole country vegan right now, you would, but
I'd actually criminalise strongly harming animals, believe it or not. That seems like an extreme point of view. I don't see it as any different than harming children. And okay, there probably should be a period where people are genned up and the knowledge is given to them, because a lot of people don't know. But at some point, I would. I absolutely would, because I don't see why animals should have to suffer for human beings.
If you think that, killing an animal is the same as killing a child, what if we had to, I know this is a really weird hypothetical, but what if we had to eat children to survive? Like, is that still the same level?
let me rephrase the whole question for you the way I think that question should be asked, because people, I think the real question should be, what do you value more? A 5-minute tasting session or an animal's life? That's the way I look at it, because we do not, those are hypotheticals, and we don't, nobody here in this city centre has to eat animals to survive. Nobody has to wear leather, nobody has to wear cosmetics that have been tested on animals, especially now. You can just go into, there's numerous cosmetic companies selling stuff that's not tested, so none of us have to do that. So that's the decision we should be making. We shouldn't be talking about what have you lived in a desert island and all these questions that people ask. And I'm not mocking your question, but they're hypotheticals.
They're not real.
We're living in reality, and we don't have to. And personally, I'm not cool with sending pigs to gas chambers. I'm not cool with cows being sent to slaughter to be turned into steaks when I can eat a vegan burger instead. The dairy industry as well, the females are exploited. They're made pregnant so they produce milk, and the baby boys, I don't know if you know that either, all the herds of cows that you see in the fields, every one of them is female. So where's all the boy freezing cows and all the boy, I'm trying to think, jerseys and the cows that produce, the milk producing cows? All those baby boys are killed shortly after birth. They're not the same cows like Charleroi that we use for meat. They don't produce good meat at all, so they're considered in the dairy industry to be a waste product. So some farmers kill them the day they're born. Some will shoot them in the head, some set them on the ground and hit them over the head with a spade or a shovel. In Ireland this year, I think 30,000 baby boy calves were killed within the first 5 weeks of life. And the ones that aren't killed early are sent over to Holland or Belgium, or some go to northern African countries like Algeria, Libya, and they go into veal pens, and they stand in a veal pen with a chain around their neck for 16, 18 weeks. And guess what happens to them when that 18 weeks is over? They get pulled out of the veal pen, knife across their throat, and they end up in a restaurant so somebody can eat veal. You know, so all that, the whole thing for me stinks. I don't support it. I think it's very wrong, but I'm not judging people, because up until I was 19, 20 years old, I paid for it all too. I just found out information, and I mean, I'm telling you some stuff that you probably didn't even know before. What you do with that is completely up to you, but yeah, that's the reason I'm here today. So what do you think of all that?
Well, I think that it's good that you're informing people, because a lot of people are ignorant. I mean, some people are ignorant on purpose. I think that it's important to know about, I mean, I think it's important to know that about everything that you put into your body. And I think that veganism can promote a healthy lifestyle. You know, once you start to think about where the products that you consume come from, then you might start thinking more about, like, do I want to drink excessive amounts of alcohol? Do I still want to be smoking? All of those things. And
one thing people forget when you're talking about the health is animal products are packaged deals, so they come with saturated fat, cholesterol, antibiotics, you're absorbing all sorts of stuff. So there's that to think about as well, your health for sure. You have to think about the environment too. Animal agriculture is absolutely decimating the planet. It's the #1 driver of global warming because of the methane from, like, all transportation, planes, trains, lorries, buses, all down here. Animal agriculture's up here. It is the leading driver. And the fishing was the one other thing I wanted to say to you as well. The oceans are being decimated. Somewhere around 3 trillion fish being dragged out of the ocean every year. The UN now are saying by 2048 that we'll have an empty ocean. There'll be no fish left at current rates of fishing, and by 2045 there'll be more plastic in the ocean than fish. So we can help the planet, we can help ourselves health-wise, but most importantly we can help the animals. What do you think? We're thinking about.
Is that like will I?
No. I'm not asking you that. I'm just asking you, is it worth thinking about?
Well, I mean, absolutely.
I do not expect anybody on the spot to go, oh yeah, I'm going to go vegan, because I mean, you've lived a lifetime of doing one thing. what you do with the information is up to you. So that's not why I was asking you in that way. I was just asking you what do you think about in general the whole thing.
Well, I think that, you coming out and talking to people like this will definitely, I mean, I for one, personally, I know this isn't the question, but, I'm definitely going to, it'll always be in the back of my mind when I'm, in Tesco's or something and thinking maybe I won't. I think that cutting out something that you've been doing your entire life, obviously, is a very difficult choice. But I think that in the meantime, cutting back on the amount of animal products that I use is probably something I'll be doing.
I'd just say to you, this sounds judgmental, don't take it judgmentally, but every time you use or take an animal product, somebody's had to suffer in a really terrible way.
Yeah.
And that's always worth thinking about. I want to ask you 2 questions before you go. What's your name, by the way?
I'm Idoya.
Say again?
Idoya.
Idoya?
Yeah.
I take it that's Basque, yeah?
Yes, it is.
That's a cool name. And the last question is, can I give you a wee card?
Yes,
With some information.
Yes.
Cool.
So I never asked your name.
I'm Cliff. I'll give you a card now. So it's been really pleasant talking to you, by the way.
Thank you very much.
So there you go. That's my Instagram, YouTube. You don't need to sub or follow or anything. If I could ask you to watch one thing, see the top one here, the best speech you'll ever hear.
Oh, I actually can't see. I can't read very well, but
But it's on YouTube.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And it is literal. Just listen to the guy.
Yeah.
Believe me, somebody sent it to me and I thought, a speech on YouTube? Nah. Inside 5 minutes, I was hooked. He is literally the best speaker I've ever heard in my entire life. It's about 40 minutes long. He's doing a tour. He's a Jewish guy doing, Gary Yorovsky's his name, if you can remember that. He's doing a tour of universities at 230 universities in America. About 8 years ago, somebody filmed one of his speeches on their phone. It's 24 million views. Literally the most powerful thing I've ever seen in my life, and it changed my life overnight. So give that a wee watch sometime on YouTube and see how you go on. Tell me your name again.
Idoya.
Idoya. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for selling my thing.
Yes, it's been great. Okay.
Thank you.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
You too. I'm going home now. Thanks very much.